Hello, dear friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Welcome back once again.
Guys, we're going to be barraging you real quick with different videos, and instead of making them into like a 40-minute video, it's better to break them up into shorter segments because some topics people are, coming to for what's happening news-wise. Other people like the spiritual. We like to give it all. But at the same time, too, they demonize certain topics. So this way, we could get the news out there in shorter bursts. There's so much going on right now. And I could just tell, just from reading comments, people are overwhelmed right now. There's just been so much pulling on people's emotions. It's just incredible times that we're in.
Oh, I know. It's horrid, too. And they know exactly what they're doing. And that's why I do love to bring the news and information along with ways to cope with these emotions and feelings that they're putting us through.
Yeah, there's so much. I was just watching a video that was horrendous from Washington State. And we've talked about how this, everything going on here, there's something bigger. If we're still looking at a left-right paradigm, or even as we're going to be talking about, a communist, capitalist, communist, democratic, communist, republic paradigm, none of these things are really accurate. And those are all just tiny little pictures of what's really going on here. And unfortunately, there's not enough true education of the masses yet, but more and more are waking up, and more are waking up and are sick to what they're waking up to.
Well, they are. And, an awakening is different from an education because suddenly your eyes open and you realize that all the things going on behind the scenes is just so wrong, and it's not what they seem to be.
For instance, we had one of our regular people is very, very much on the left, extremely on the left. And so everything was blamed on the right and, the T Brigade, the PB and everything. But still, we see in Tacoma horrendous riots going on, and we see just atrocious acts being done. And see, it's not the case. It's not the case. You got to recognize there's just this. This is, if you want to go biblical, this is the spirit of Antichrist and of chaos that has been unleashed upon the planet. And it's a spirit of like self-destructiveness. And so it's so important for us to have that solid spiritual practice. That is key right now. And we're going to be talking about the fact that people are discovering they could have their own practice as well. They don't have to buy into a system. See, this time is ultimately about saying, screw the systems. That's what this is about. Don't put me in a box. We're tired of being put in the box. We're not going to be put in the box anymore. We're going to, we need our creativity. And we need to cultivate the creativity and the expressiveness that's inherent in all human beings, because each one of us is a unique manifestation of the divine. And now that I've spoken 3 minutes before talking about China, the fine dining country, let's jump over there and let's try to look at things with a bigger perspective and recognize that, what we're seeing here is a chess game playing out. But only one side, unfortunately, seems to understand that it is a chess game.
I know it can make things a little bit confusing and somewhat chaotic.
So I can't wait to look at tomorrow and check out USNI Fleet Tracker and see what things look like, because it'll be the first time really since we've gone through all this and we're quote unquote changing administrations, etc. And you see, the U.S. carrier group enters the South China Sea now, amid the Taiwan tensions. So, as we were saying, look at what happens. Don't listen to the BS, verbal stuff that comes out. That's all just garbage. It's, as they say, verbal diarrhea coming out of these politicians' mouths. Look at the actual actions. Look at what they do. So here we have tension being ratcheted up again. And we had talked about this yesterday. There was eight planes that went into Taiwan's airspace, and that was unusual. Usually you get 1 or 2. Well, second day in a row now, and this time a total of 15 aircraft, including 12 fighter jets, have gone in. And so this is something that's not usual. This is a major escalation, and so, of course, one of the kind of themes that was coming out, like with the change, like going from what we've had the right, and now we're going into the left. And one of the things was it'll be business as usual. Well, one of the biggest businesses that we know of is the MIC. And, how often, very, very often, these INCs, you understand, make money on both sides. And that's part of why you see this nonstop, endless conflict that is all over this planet nonstop, going back to Roman times, going back to Sumerian times. Look at the legends of the Sumerian gods who supposedly lived in their own temples. That's why they liked the smell of the offering of that sacrificial lamb, which honestly in my carnivore days, nothing like a roast leg of lamb. You gotta say, I don't blame these Sumerian, Anunnaki gods for liking that scent. But, now that we don't eat meat, we don't go there anymore. But still, the same sacrifices are occurring. And, they're always looking for bigger and bigger sacrifices.
I know. And what I do to help keep myself centered is I'm always standing back and looking at the bigger picture, because it's so easy to get sucked in just a millisecond.
And I know most of you guys could put these pieces together as we're talking about this. Every now and then there's somebody that won't be able to put it together and make a comment like, just speak plainly. And if we did, then we wouldn't be here. And, speaking plainly cost us our complete income on the first channel. And, we were just thankful we could actually live with family, because otherwise we would have been out in the street, because of speaking plainly. So, obviously we have to avoid certain things in these times. And so this is why we do it. And here we see, I get by with a little help from my friends. Israel authorizes U.S. deployment of Iron Dome. This is a defense missile system near a flock of seagulls country. So, yeah, things haven't stopped at all. In fact, it seems like things are ramping up in many ways and escalating. And as we had shared, the messages that Cindy has picked up on is don't let your guard down, because there hasn't been any decrease in the chance of that RED dawn scenario.
That's right. We do. I know it's such a fine line. It's a delicate balance too. Don't let your guard down, but still stay centered and, not get sucked in. So I know it's a really difficult place to be, but this is what we get to do in these times. We get to hone our skills, our spiritual skills, and we can decide whether we want to get sucked into this or just be observers.
So this is from Sputnik, which again is, Rus, RUSSIA, and it says U.S. plundering Syrian oil to send to Israel, claims ex-diplomat, ex-U.S. diplomat. As we've talked about disclosure coming out about aliens and extraterrestrials, and we've had so many public sources, Paul Hellyer, Canadian Prime Minister, as well as, just so many others have come out over the course of time. How about disclosure as to what's really going on behind the scenes as well? Why, these quote-unquote fights for freedom that are not really anything about freedom at all.
No, they're absolutely not. This is one of the more disgusting things that they do.
Yeah, we get sold liberation of the people, and yet it costs more lives than it saves, and causes more sufferings than it saves. And this is why people are waking up in droves, and not just in the U.S., and as I shared, one of my contacts that's involved heavily in politics, and also has ties to over there, said it is really likely that Putin might not be there. But who they're going to get? Probably Medvedev again. So, you go from one puppet to another puppet. It's always the same. Nothing ever changes. And that's why people are sick and tired.
That's right. It just goes on and on and on. Then there's really no rest.
So get the people mad enough, they're going to want some change. Okay, well, let's just put another figurehead on there that's going to be under the control of the real powers. And that's probably what's going to come out. And maybe it'll calm them down a little bit. But I think enough people are waking up now to where they're going to know it's just another, what's that game with you put a ball under 3 cups and you keep, what I mean?
Yeah, they're just switching the mask out.
Yeah, and that's what they do. The 3 cups could represent 3 different, political ideologies or even just individuals. But the reality is, it's the one that's moving the cups that controls the game.
It's right.
And it's time for people to wake up to that. Meanwhile, Americans are fleeing lockdowns when they can afford to. And so, as we had said, people are leaving certain states in droves, and the real estate market reflects it because we've been looking as well, and things are selling like hotcakes, especially in places that are not as locked down.
Right, they really are. They're just going fast.
So you could see, people are leaving California in droves, and that's been happening really for even before the CV issue came in, just really for political reasons as well as being taxed to death. And so, and then also the fires, I think, have done a lot of people in where they just don't want to go through another season. Illinois, Michigan as well, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and you see Delaware, Maryland down in there. People are leaving those states. They're heading to the Carolinas. They're heading to Florida. They're heading to Texas in droves. They're also heading to Colorado. And then Arizona and Idaho. And so, these states are growing. That shift south is just accelerating.
Well, right. It's where people feel they have some kind of internal control over their bodies and their future.
Yeah, and as we've talked to, and we do talk to so many people, every day, and we try to answer as many emails as we can every day. And we have clients every day pretty much, as we have some on Sunday, which we usually don't do, but we're trying to keep up with things. When it's night and day in certain states, absolutely night and day. In some states, it's as if nothing really as much happened. Business is as usual, and not all these poor little mom and pop businesses are still in business. In other states, they're decimated. Everything's locked down. They're just people are depressed and crushed. And, it's sad, but there is a huge difference between where you're at, going through this crisis. If you're going through it in, say, New York or some other areas, it's vastly different than if you're in Florida or Texas, for instance.
Well, from county to county, town to town, too, it could change in a heartbeat, too.
That's a very good point. Very good point as well. And so, as you see here, fat but healthy is a myth. New research on weight and heart health concludes. And, why are we talking about this? Because we're under so much stress right now. Everybody's under a lot of stress. In some situations, we've seen people jogging at fast paces, running with, with facial coverings on. Do you know that you're poisoning your system? Yet we do need to work out. We do need to get exercise. This can help us to get some positive endorphins going. There was an article, which I didn't put up here, but it was talking about they were opening up schools in one state because so many kids were depressed. And actually, depressed to the point of thinking they don't want to be here anymore. And I'm seeing so many comments from people saying, I want off of this planet. So one way you could combat that is, through a good, healthy spiritual practice, but you could also do it by getting some physical activity, which, Cindy and I, we've been working so much that we ended up neglecting the hard physical aspects of it. We always did the meditation and the mantras every day. But now we're back to making sure we're getting real good physical exercise. Even when we would go out and do a hike, like 4 to 5 miles. It didn't feel like quite enough. We needed to do some resistance exercise. We needed to do something a little more intense. And that really does help you. It really helps you. I mean, it's just a fact that it creates these positive hormones, these endorphins that will lift your mood up. The other thing too is, again, think about all the toxins that are around us. Our body is, it stores toxins in fat. So, the less fat that you have on your body, the better off you are. There's so many reasons to try to get in shape. And in these times, it's for your mental state of mind almost as much.
It really, really is. And even if you can just set a timer for 5 minutes, just start somewhere, move the arms, move the legs, get something started, and try that once a day or even just 3 times a week. But the most important step is to start.
And I share this because most of my life I've been a gym rat since the time I was 12, when I started taking martial arts and got my first weight set, became a personal trainer. I've also been a massage therapist, Reiki master teacher, practiced Qigong for 35-40 years now. So my whole life has been about health and wellness in a holistic way, and that's what my focus has always been on. Besides uncovering all the mysteries about what's going on in our world, and even the mysteries of consciousness, which we'll be talking about in an upcoming video as well. It's intertwined. I remember when I first started studying Raja Yoga, one of the first things that comes out is you can't have a very healthy mental state if your body is not healthy. And that's really something that smacked me in the face in so many ways. Just realizing that they're tied together. They're so intertwined. The healthier we can be physically, it's going to help us spiritually as well.
Yeah, it's really, really important to realize whatever you're putting into your body, that's going to turn into, some of it's going to be part human. So you don't want to eat the GMOs and the processed foods and the high fructose corn syrup, because that's going to be low quality of whatever part of you it turns into. So that's kind of a visual that I keep in mind when I eat food, that this is going to be part of me.
And that's so important. Instead of viewing your food as, energy, like you're just throwing gas into the car, view it as it's going to be what became you. Last night, really, we fasted for pretty much 24 hours, and then we just had a massive salad that was like loaded with all sorts of stuff, and including like blueberries, and probably had 10 different things in it, and a fresh homemade dressing. So I knew every ingredient in it, and all organic. And that was really all we had, because I think that we've been conditioned to think we need a lot more food than we do, because we really, really don't. And the thing is, we're transitioning into becoming more energetic beings. This is part of everything that we have to shift into and shed. This is a time period where we need to be purging, getting rid of, and all that doesn't serve us. And so, we're going to be doing another fast, and we're doing fasts on a more and more regular basis. Many of you guys have said, I noticed I don't sleep the same anymore. I don't seem to sleep, 8, 9, 10 hours straight. Maybe you sleep 3 or 4 hours. Maybe you need an afternoon nap now, and then you're up, and then you might sleep another 3 or 4 hours. Everything is changing. Our consciousness is changing. Our vehicles, which is our bodies, they're changing. We're becoming more light, more lighter. We're becoming less dense. And I know some people will say, I know some guys that are pretty dense. Well, true, but still. We're changing. This is part of the change of the ages that's going on right now. And you might find that you need a lot less food than you used to. You might find that you no longer can tolerate certain foods. They're actually making you sick now.
Well, they've had so many things where they say, well, you need to eat like 6 times a day, or 3 big meals and these snacks to keep your metabolism going. So if you look back even just like 5 years ago, how the disinformation really flooded humans all over the world.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really important to be in optimal health in these times, because we obviously are under attack in so many ways, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, with what we eat, what we breathe, what we drink, and other things as well, which you guys could add to the list. So we just wanted to share that with you guys. Please do make sure that you are subscribed. Click the bell to get some notifications, hopefully. Thank you guys for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. As always, stay prepared out there. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.